Every year, through the annual budget process, Yale thoroughly reviews its financial resources and the strategic goals that serve to advance the university's mission. We carefully consider new and continuing opportunities for supporting students, faculty, and staff across the university, and for partnering with our home city of New Haven. The purpose of this video is to explain where funding for the budget comes from, how it's allocated, and how we make those decisions.
The university budget falls into two basic categories. First is the operating budget, which is the ongoing costs of what it takes to run a university on a day-to-day basis throughout the year. The other is the capital budget, and the capital budget is what it takes to be able to build new buildings or renovate existing buildings for their use. One key to the budget is that this is incredibly collaborative. It involves input from so many different places in the university, all of whom are working together to try to develop a budget by late spring that can be approved by the corporation and then move forward to define spending in the coming year. This begins with a set of parameters that are given to each budgetary unit that define things like what we anticipate inflation will be, what we anticipate the endowment return will be. Those are then brought back to what's called the Budget Advisory Group. The Budget Advisory Group is comprised of the provost, those in the provost office, senior administrative leadership in the Department of Finance and Operations, as well as several faculty that provide perspective and input to understand both the financial side as well as the academic side of all these budget requests. We work to create a budget which reflects our current needs, but also reflects the need to be financially responsible into future generations. External revenue for the operating budget comes from a variety of sources. For the past year, 2022, which runs from July 1st, 2021 until June 30th, 2022, that revenue contributes just over $4.7 billion to the budget. It might be surprising to see that tuition, room, and board comprise a relatively small slice of this overall revenue. It's just $450 million, or about 10% of the university budget. That's the net amount after 50% of the gross tuition, room, and board is returned in the form of financial aid. The two biggest sources of income are spending from the endowment, which contributes about $1.6 billion, or 33%, and medical services income, which is $1.4 billion, or 29% of the total budget. The third largest contributor of revenue is grants and contracts, at $921 million, or 19% of the total budget.
Yale's annual operating budget is a combination of all the sources of revenue we anticipate for the coming year, as well as all of the expenses or spending we anticipate for the coming year. Every year, the anticipated expenses of the annual budget are typically close to the amount of anticipated revenue. For the fiscal year 2022, expected expenses net of internal revenue are about $4.6 billion. Yale seeks to improve the world by creating knowledge and sharing that knowledge, and that's a mission that's carried out by and for people. So it makes sense that the biggest category of expenses at Yale are the salaries and benefits for the people who work here, the nearly 5,000 faculty and about 10,000 staff. In the fiscal year 2022 budget, salaries and benefits total $2.9 billion, or nearly 2/3 of the university's budget. Included in the $2.9 billion is about $700 million in employee benefit costs, most of which, over 90%, are health and retirement related. Non-salary expenses account for another $1.5 billion of the budget. These include a wide range of costs, including utilities, medical supplies and services, lab supplies and equipment, consulting and professional services, acquisitions of books, periodicals, and artworks, and many other costs. You can find more details on these expenses and much more about the operating budget in the University Budget Book, which is available to all faculty, staff, and students on the Provost's website.
The Yale budget process allows each school and unit to bring forward their annual budget in line with their strategic initiatives that they've put forth in a long-range plan for approval. This is an opportunity for those that get promotional funds to ask for funding for ideas that they have put forward in line with the mission of their school or mission of the university. Once the officers, deans, and unit leaders, along with their lead administrators, put together their proposals, we meet with the budget advisory group during the months of March and April. Everyone comes forward and does a presentation. Decisions are made really based on the operational needs of the unit. We also look at the president and provost strategic initiatives for the next 5 to 10 years. And we also look at what ideas will be have the strongest outcomes on the university and advance the mission of the university. We summarize the entire budget for the provost, who then presents it to the president, who then presents it in the June corporation meeting to the trustees of Yale University for approval. Once we gain approval, we communicate all that to the lead administrators, the deans and officers for the new year. And that happens in June, and we turn over the new year on July 1st.
Obviously, the budget is everything that is the university. And so it supports everything that is in the university. All the people, all the places, all the collections, all the operations are supported by this budget. It involves every aspect of what the university does, from the clinical practice to what collections are found in the libraries, to what the salaries are for faculty and staff, what financial aid we provide to students. The most important thing the university does is to recruit the next generation of scholars as we create the community of scholars that is Yale University. The budget is the key tool that we utilize for that recruitment as we further diversify our faculty and as we develop the emerging fields that are happening across different disciplines. It's a moment to reimagine what the fields are, to reimagine what the university looks like, what the composition of the university is, and then to make these investments in people and in the spaces that are needed for those people to thrive. The generosity of our donors over multiple decades makes it possible for us to admit students without regard to their need, without regard to their financial circumstance, which is fundamentally an opportunity to have the most diverse student body possible, where we can recruit students to campus from all backgrounds, independent of what their financial resources reflect, that we can bring them from really all over the world. We can create the most diverse student body, utilizing the power of the endowment to be able to cover the costs of an education at Yale.
The university's budget has to be part of building an inclusive workplace. When we start to think about the composition of the organization, we think about faculty, we think about students, we certainly think about the 11,000 plus staff that are part of the community. But I also think the word community is what's most important to me. And so the university's budget allows us to build community through a variety of different ways. For staff diversity, it helps us to attract talent. The university's budget includes a large commitment to the city of New Haven. I believe our commitment is approximately $135 million over a 6-year period. And as a result of that, I think it makes us the largest university commitment to its host city. And for me, that's quite exciting, given that I'm a resident and native of the city of New Haven.
The budget process is dynamic. It reflects the revenue that's coming into the university. Sometimes the endowment goes up and sometimes it goes down, and we have to make adjustments accordingly. And so through the generosity of donors over multiple years, over centuries, that endowment has grown to the point where it provides a substantial portion of our budgetary support. That makes it possible for us to invest in the future, for us to carry out our mission, for us to support our students and our faculty and our staff, to create a community of scholars that is seeking the future of academic disciplines and thriving in all of its missions.